Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Mindset Monday. I'm Shelley Butler.
I mean, you just said
You could tell that third good morning was kind of garbled, right?
no, it's good.
Oh,
What
thanks.
are you talking
Okay.
about?
Oh, thank you, Eve.
Well, you told me.
I said, please don't let
Yeah.
me hold on to my microphone too much,
Mm,
right? Thanks.
you're welcome.
Thanks.
I'm there for you. I got your
Whew,
back. I
now I'm
got you.
hot.
Are you hot? You
I
are
am.
hot.
So I am really excited. This season we are bringing to you some real life scenarios. Some
Interesting.
real
Yeah.
am I too far off?
Well, I don't. Yeah.
Oh, we're
I'm
not
taking.
centered.
I'm taking off all the screen.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you're cuter.
Uh,
So right? So we are providing some real life scenarios. I have spent a little bit of time out there in the real wide world of, the internet and found some really great feature stories about real scenarios that happen in the workplace. And they're not always handled perhaps the way that I would handle them. They're not always handled the way that Eve would handle them. But we've decided that we want to talk about it. Um, so Estelle is here in the background. You can't see her, but Estelle's in our background, and she is going to play the audio, and we're going to listen together. Eve and I will make many facial reactions as we listen to this, and then we'll talk about it. So, producer extraordinaire Estelle, if you could play that for us, we will make our facial expressions.
I didn't
Right?
know. I didn't know. I didn't bring my facial express, my facial
Ah,
hair.
I know
Yeah.
that we always do.
Monica, do you have a quick second?
Yes.
Hi, what's up? I noticed that every time we have a conversation, by the time I get back to my desk, I have an email from you recapping the conversation. Oh no, I'm just CMA. What's CMA? CMA, just like CYA, which means cover your ass. CMA, which is covering my ass. I just I just think it's important to always have a paper trail of all the conversations, just in case there's a misunderstanding. I'm emailing you a recap of what we spoke about, and that gives you an opportunity to correct anything that I may have misunderstood. I just think it's a little unnecessary to recap every single conversation. Oh, no, I completely understand why someone in management would think that it's unnecessary. In the past, I've had managers who say one thing and then turn around and say another, or say that they didn't say something. This way, with a red receipt, there's no way for them to say that they at least didn't have knowledge of how I understood what they were saying. So I will continue to send you a recap email. Okay. All righty. Thank you. You're welcome. Hi, Janet. Just recapping the conversation we just had. CMA is basically me covering myself in case of any misunderstandings and to avoid any further issues. Let me know if you have any questions. Red receipt on and send. Hey, Veronica, do you have a quick second?
Oh, there we go.
I love the fact that she she copies. She does the. No, I'm gonna recap our conversation about recapping our conversation.
Yeah, yeah. Right?
I love that.
I do too.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think about when somebody has a conversation with you and recaps it on email? Because I'm sure it's happened to you before. It's happened to me.
Yeah, it's so I used to be pissed off at that when people
Hmm.
some people did that to me. I did that to my bosses. I did that to my bosses
Of course,
at
I've
one
done it
point in
too.
time. And I started doing that, and I think people started doing that to me too, when I would not remember what I said. In other words, I would change my mind, right, about whatever I said.
So
Um,
when you changed your mind, you would not say, I changed my mind. You would just change the narrative.
I, I, what I would say is I didn't remember what I said. Like I didn't remember what I said, so I would just do say something else, and my mind changed over time because the environment changes, right? So whatever is happening at the time is what I want now. So like change my mind, right, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then then I experienced the same thing from the other side, being an employee, and my boss was making promises, and every time I bring it up, he changed his mind. So I started documenting them, and it's a way to protect my ass, right?
Hmm.
To protect my ass, and so what it tells me, what it told me about me, right? What it told me about me is that I wasn't there as a boss. Like, so if I can't recall what I said, well, I'm not there. I'm not listening to you. That's one. And if I'm triggered by the fact that you're documenting it, like you're sending me, I cover my ass, kind of, this is a recap. Well, like I'm going to spend time reflecting on why am I triggered by the fact that you're sending me something that I said, right? And
Yeah.
but it does point to the
Trust and
problem. Well, the
transparency
problem,
within.
the problem in this current world is there's a missing trust, right? And worse than that, it's worse. I don't think it's worse than missing trust. I think what happens is we're not here. We we change our minds so fast because we keep reacting to the outside world, and then we just tell people what to do. Oh, do this and do this, and you keep changing your mind. Like the to-do list keeps building up, right, and changing over time, and it's impossible for the person who is receiving it to keep up, right? So I it's reflected of the world we live in. We're not listening. We're not even here. Like
Absolutely.
we're so
Absolutely.
busy being busy.
So, yeah, it might reveal about your workplace the fact that you have a lack of trust and transparency. And sometimes we point fingers at others. It's much easier to say, well, Eve, I don't trust you.
Mm,
Therefore, I'm going to CMA, cover my ass,
yeah,
right? In this discussion. And you can look at it that way.
you can.
I think that for me, when I reflect on when I ever sent an email back, I think that I trusted myself less.
What do you mean by that?
I think that when I look back at the emails that I sent to my bosses or to the powers that be, um, I was attached to an outcome, right? So somebody might have said to me, Shelly, if you do this thing, this beautiful thing in the world, and we're able to get, 6% extra revenue, I'm going to give you this,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Um, and I may have put that back emailed that back with some caveats kind of
right.
thing, right?
Some conditions.
With a few conditions, with a few little extras. And I think that's about me not trusting myself.
Mm.
So when I really dug deep into it and I went, is this a trust and transparency thing always from the top down? Is it always the boss's fault? Is it always the leader's fault when I don't feel trust? So I think that we tend to get that way, right? It's always somebody else's fault when I'm not feeling a sense of trust. All I'm saying is when I looked a little deeper into myself, I questioned how many times was it that I didn't trust me in the situation? I didn't trust myself to get to that 6%. So maybe I said at 3%, I would like us to review the 6%.
It's interesting because like somebody came to me the other day and she said you said this, and I immediately defended and said no, I didn't say that. And then she popped up the emails or the text that I had said it. Here, this is what you said. I thought, oh, you're right. That's what I said. But my immediate reaction, having read that text, was defense, right?
Yeah,
And in the past, it would have been, I'm going to defend that. In this, like in this kind of way that I am now, I would say, I just said, yeah, I did say that. And yeah, I was wrong saying that I didn't say it. But it means, like, then I reflected on why didn't I remember? I didn't remember because I was in reaction when I said it.
of course.
So
Of course. And then at that point, so as leaders, you're a leader. How can you like there's a perfect example. How can you change that dynamic with that person going forward? Right? Because now, of course, they're going to document everything you said because they got to prove you wrong.
that's interesting. How can you move forward as a
Yeah, how can
boss?
you change that?
Well, if you're in a leadership position, you're in the power position, I think there's a responsibility there to just say, sure, I said that.
Sorry about that.
Or
I was
just say,
wrong.
okay, what does it mean for you? Like
Yeah.
okay, what does it mean? So you delivered, okay, cool. You did that. Are you proud of it? Like going away from the fact that she said, they said, there's something underlying there, like in that conversation. And it's like you pinpointed before, it's trust. Okay. Accept whatever they say because what I've learned by public speaking, every time I say something, people say, "Well, you said this." And I say, "I never said that." And I go back and I never said those words, but the words are received differently by different people, right?
People's
Right.
perception is their truth.
Somebody said to me the other day, she says, you know, you should stop using the word consider. I thought, oh my God, why? Well, because it triggers her for some reason, right?
Yeah.
So, so I
Because
stopped,
you're asking her to
right?
change her mind, right?
Yeah,
You're asking her to to yeah, to change your mind or to look at something a little bit differently, right?
right.
And when people are reacting, the worst thing you could possibly do is try to coach them.
Try so, I think what we could do in the workplace to kind of like stop arguing about stupid things. If you say this is what I remember, okay, that's what you remember. Did you deliver what you remembered? Okay, you did. Okay, good.
Listen, if somebody wants to document our conversation, I simply say thank you.
Right, like that.
Fabulous.
And then what do you do when they
I
come
do not
back?
hold
No, do
anybody.
you go back and look at the conversation?
No,
No, you just let it go, right?
thank
And that's
you.
some, so what happens when you do that, I believe, is like you're trusting the person. You say, okay, well, it's good that you document it. Good. So now you have a plan. Execute that plan. We'll come back to your plan.
Absolutely.
And then
There's
we,
nothing better than having somebody document
yeah, why not?
what their plan is,
Yeah.
what they're going to do. It solidifies it, you
Hmm.
know? So anybody who wants to document conversation, I am not going to, I release self, no
Right.
self,
Yeah.
right? Pillar number three, I am
Just let it
not
go.
going to be allowing that, or sorry, practice number three, I'm not going to allow that um, to all of a sudden my truth becoming all these perceptions, right?
Yeah, that's the
Now,
freedom.
if
That's the
they're documenting and I can say, "Are you documenting because I have let you down?" Like
mm.
if that's how I feel, I will say, "Are you documenting it because I've let you down?" Because that's happened here. That's happened here
So
before.
you would have that conversation?
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Yeah, why not?
That's the
Right?
conversation.
Mm.
See, it wasn't about I'm going to cover my ass. It
Mm.
was, "Hey, Veronica, like if I was Veronica, I would say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why I'm documenting
Mm.
because when I have a conversation with you, um, it comes back to bite me in the ass.
Yeah.
So I want you to know that I'm feeling um, like you don't trust me. I'm feeling like I definitely don't trust you because it's becoming back differently. But I do not want to play this game of um, of well, I'm going to document just because, I'm
No.
documenting because if I document something, it's because, and I've only ever documented a few things at Dovico, to tell you the honest truth. I'm going to mention one. Quick assign. So we were removing a piece of our product for a new version. And I was listening to my sales folks, and my sales folks says this is going to hurt us. It's going to hurt us bad.
Right.
So I call a big meeting because it's going to hurt us.
Hmm.
And I go in with our product guy at the time. I say, "Hey, product guy." He says, "Too bad. I've made the decision. Too bad." I said, "But listen, there's these sales folks, their support guy,
Mm.
like it's going to be a problem." 4 years later, 5 years later, we can't move anybody because we don't have quick assign,
Right.
right? So I actually documented that. And but I documented it in such a way that I'm going to agree to disagree. He's the product guy. I'm not. I'm going to um, honor his decision.
But why did you document to protect yourself? To protect your ass?
I documented because I had a group of folks, my support
Hmm.
and my sales guys, asking me to not do this, asking me to make the decision, to overrule the decision that the product guy was making
But why did you document it?
because I wasn't going to overrule it.
So why did you document it?
Well, because I had to support these guys. I
But
had
to
to
prove to
support them.
whom though? You're trying to prove to someone. You're documenting to prove. Like as a boss, you could have made the you
Well,
could make the
it was to
decision.
show Bob later that he was wrong.
Right. So I told you so.
Absolutely, I told you
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I even got to say the words.
I told you so.
He didn't wasn't even here anymore. But we went out for lunch. I got to say, "I told you so."
So
Uh,
yeah, in a way, it's like that's what it is.
but
Cover
that's
your
the
ass.
only reason. That's the only reason why I documented that.
And I still do it. Like I hired some contractors to do my cottage, and I
Hmm.
everything I decide, I send them a little note. Right.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So I
Things can get construed in translation, right? And not only did I get to say to Bob, "I told you so," right?
mm,
But the guys that are still here, that are still salesmen here to this day,
yeah.
got to say to me, "I told you so." We
I
brought up the documentation.
where I think about this is like I think there's nothing wrong with sending a cover my ass. Like here's a
Absolutely
meeting.
not.
Here's what we agreed to do,
Yeah.
and then
But what?
with
How come that boss took it like that though? Like when Veronica is telling her boss,
because it's a trust issue. You don't trust me. That's what it looks like.
but whose
Right?
problem is that?
That's the boss's
It's
issue.
the boss's issue.
Yeah.
Did the boss should have? Do you believe that the boss should have come out and confronted Veronica on that?
Not at all. I
See,
think
and that's why I say when I get one of them, I say thank you,
it shouldn't. Yeah,
thank
I
you.
don't think it should be a problem from either side to document something. This is what you said. If it's not, then clear it up.
Yeah,
What's wrong with that?
yeah, and it's okay also to tell the truth.
Like,
If Veronica doesn't feel trusted, and she obviously doesn't because it's CMA, right? She covering my hand, covering my ass, and she actually said it. That's what's truly important.
like for me, it's kind of a like since we are busy, we
Hmm.
have a lot of our minds, so we're not often listening to the other person in front of us. This is just a way to bring listening to the forefront by saying, "Hey, this is what we said." Like it's the same thing. Like if you ask me to do something and I say, "Let me confirm this is what you're asking." Like I'm doing it right on in the moment. That's listening, active listening. One of the coaches I went to as active listening, he would say, "Just confirm what you heard in different
Yeah,
words." In other words, I'm going to tell you what I heard to make sure that I'm doing the right thing, right?
yeah.
And so this is just another way. I think it's just I, I don't think it's a big issue at all. Like, and the fact that the boss is reacting to it, which bosses would, some people would, like the first, and to be honest, Shelly, that's the first, like it's, I'm not saying I'm reacting to it, but it's the first energy I got. Oh, they don't trust me, right?
Well,
I
it
get
is.
that.
But they don't trust
They
you.
don't. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess
Get over it.
what I'm asking people to really look at is how much do you trust yourself?
That's,
It's a
that's,
it's a self-awareness that we have to become to. So if you don't trust your boss and you don't trust yourself,
mm,
where do we continue to go through life just not trusting? Or do we start working on our trust level? It means that you might document everything for the rest of your life. That's okay. But as leaders, as people that you're working with, I want people to be sensitive to that. So going forward, leaders, when you receive documentation from a conversation that you had, I would suggest say say thank you.
yeah.
And if you're feeling those feelings of not being trusted, it's okay to go and have that conversation. Eve, I feel like because you're documenting everything, you don't trust me lately. Is there did I let you down somewhere along the way?
Or just like I think the first part is saying thank you is like they did the job for you. Like you should be documenting to make sure things are done the way you want it. Read it, and if you agree, say thank you.
Thank
I read
you.
it. If there's a modification, just modify it and move on.
Yeah.
Why are we stuck in our heads about like this means that and that means this?
Yeah.
Right?
Why?
Like because I think at the end of the day, it's not a trust. You don't. I can't make you trust me, Shelly.
Yeah.
I can never make you trust me.
No.
I can only trust myself. And when I start trusting myself and how I'm going to react and not reaction, not attached to something and not being a self, when I start having that kind of like presence, right? I trust myself. There'll be no more issue.
And that's exactly where I was going to go
Mhm.
to. So, if you really work on trusting yourself,
Yes. Yeah.
right? you know, and that doesn't mean that you're like everything is going to be right that you've said, but you're
No.
going to trust yourself enough that you're not going to be getting in your head when you receive some documentation from one of your employees. You know what I mean? When we're in our head because we have a lack of trust, not only with ourselves, but the folks around us, that energy carries. And if you think you as a leader don't trust any of your folks, right? Are they going to steal a pen? They're going to come in late. They're stealing time, right? That spreads like wildfire.
See what happens is when we're in a reaction, when we're just doing things and yeah, you're right about that, by the way. It does like when you don't trust your employees, like it just like the energy around like it'll spread like the in like cancer inside your organization.
Oh,
You're absolutely right about that. You
oh,
just don't want to stop.
absolutely. Talk to
Okay,
people
stop.
who are monitored on their when
Computer.
they on their
Yeah.
computer. Talk to people
Mm.
who have to punch in and punch
Yeah.
out. Talk to people who are and see the thing is the world is so in tune to, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to be. Work is not supposed to be comfortable or fun. It's supposed to be anxious, stressful, and tension.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's wrong. I think when you start when you can let go of these issues inside of your work and you make it discovery, you make it fun, you make it like something on the edge, something you've never done. Every time you do something a little better, you kind of create this environment inside of you. When you make work fun, work
It's no
actually
longer work.
it's no longer work. It
Yeah.
starts working for you.
Well, it's
Right.
just your lifestyle. It's
Yeah.
just your day to day, right? So it's interesting how um, you and I very rarely talk about work. Like we don't
Yeah,
talk
I
about.
don't find I'm working, but maybe I'm not.
Well,
Well, I'm
of
very
course,
grateful for what we have here. Like
I'm
there's
very grateful for what we have
yeah.
here. Yeah, and it is
This is work. Like we're working right now.
like we're working right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Well,
is.
Leandra's making us
That's
work.
why
So
we get paid the big bucks. Yeah, Leandra, we love her.
so what was I gonna say?
So it's okay.
Oh, yes,
Documentation
document's fine. Yeah.
is okay. Telling your truth is even more okay. Speaking your perceptions is okay. So your perceptions and my perceptions not always are going to be the same. That conversation that you walked away with being mad, I may have walked away with being super contented with.
You know what else is okay?
What?
That's not very popular?
What?
Honoring your word. If you said it, you said it.
Yeah, if you said it,
Right?
you said
If you
it.
said it, you said it. So, like, what's not popular today? Like, if you look at social media, what's not popular today is honoring your word. No, I didn't say that, or I meant this. The intention is this. Stop it. When you start like if you start being careful about your word and you start like being authentic with your word and people say, "Hey, I'm going to document what we said," and you say, "Yeah, no problem," because I trust myself,
Yeah.
because I will honor my word, right? No matter what, I will honor my word. Something magical happens there
Yeah.
because you start watching your words. You don't say everything that comes into your mouth. Don't believe everything you think. It's not right.
Yeah.
Sometimes think a little
Careful what you're
more,
telling your brain. Yeah.
right? So, what is not popular right now is honoring your word. We need contracts to honor our words. We need lawyers to and
Yeah.
then even if that doesn't work, even if you have that contract nowadays, it doesn't work. We end up in court. It's the
So
modern
true.
day living. Like, stop it.
Yeah.
Like
What
leader.
happened to the good old gentleman handshake, right?
Well,
Where we just
leadership is about honoring your word,
truly is.
right?
Truly
Like
is.
honor your word.
Yeah.
The promise you've made to yourself and to other people, honor that word,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
So,
And it starts and it does. It starts from of course the leadership because leadership has usually been there the longest. So therefore it needs to start with when people come in, you don't make them sign a contract, right? That they're going to be, under probation for the next year.
yeah,
you know,
it's
you've hired people because they're good to do the job. If you are hiring people that you automatically don't trust, that you
yeah.
automatically put in a corner and document everything because your way or the highway kind of thing, you are setting yourself up for
Mm.
failure. You're setting yourself up to do all the work that you just hired that person to do the work.
Like, sometimes truth like hurts, right? And you're right. So
Sometimes.
sometimes you hire people and then they confront you with the truth and you don't trust them because they're confronting you with the truth. This weekend I went out with my grandkids and we were there, my wife and I, my two grandkids, and we're talking about stuff, and then my grandson says, well, the Doucettes, you have a reputation of being always late. And my wife defended it, and I just smirked because it's true,
It's true.
right?
Yeah.
Now I can change that, right? But he was teasing me. He was just like poking at me, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So and so sometimes you have to decide, and do you want to change that about yourself? Do you want to honor your word more so than not? And it's important then you look at yourself because I think it's John Adams who said it way back when. You know, the biggest or the most important trait of a leader or a human for that matter is to know thyself. If you don't know why you're thinking the way you're thinking, if you don't know why you're behaving the way you're behaving, if you don't understand your behavior, you'll never get out of the hole that you're in.
You won't.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's so important that we are in discovery of who we are and what kind of makes us tick. Now, at Dovico here, we have developed an app,
Mm.
showup.io. You can find us. And the reason that we developed the app is because speaking the truth is not always the easiest thing to do. And this tool is anonymous. So it allows you um, to get on a meeting, to get with your team, and to tell your truth
Yeah.
the way that you see it without having any judgment because
Mm.
nobody knows who
Okay.
you are or who typed that. And it is the beginning of, I love to say it's the beginning of um, not only truth telling, but it's the beginning of your way forward, of your ability to see your own truth and make the changes if you so desire. Not everybody wants to make the changes. Some people,
It's
if they're
hard.
chronically late, they're going to be chronically late, and it's just the way it's going to be their entire life. But instead of pushing back on that chronically late, we want people to lean into it. Yep, you're right. I'm going to be chronic. I am a chronic late person, and I'm not working on changing it. Right? Because the thing is if we believe that that's a bad thing, and because I believe it's a bad thing, but if
What?
being late,
Oh, being that, yeah.
yeah. But if you
Am I,
don't,
am I late with you?
no, you are on time. I'm a
Yes.
15 minutes, I'm a 15-minute early girl. Like that's me, right? I'm just that type of a person. I was always told my entire life, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late.
But I'm not that. I'm like
You're not that.
a 2 minute,
You are, but you're on
a two
time.
minute
You're
guy.
on time. But the thing is at one time, Eve, before pillars and practices, that would worry me.
Right.
Now,
Right. It doesn't.
I trust you so much that I know that you're going to come in at 9:29 and 30 seconds. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And if you were late, you'd sit down here and we would run with the
It's
conversation. You
interesting.
know what I mean? So I no longer
But I've changed that about myself though.
change what?
That I was late. I used to be late. It's not that I'm always on time. Something happened to me 2 weekends ago, 3 weekends ago. Actually, we were doing an event, and I told everybody, please be on time because some people were late. Like it's more than you be on time. I give this whole speech about being on time. Anyways, the next morning I came in late. I thought the thing was starting at 8:30, but it started at 8. I never read my, the memo,
Yeah.
and like they made so much fun of me. So shameful. But then I
It's
like
so
I
shameful.
then but then I gave up the reason. I gave up the defense. It's just yes, I was late. This is what happened to me. I deconstruct everything in my day in order to figure out what my behavior that led me to being late. Why didn't I read the memo? Why didn't I read the
Yeah.
email? You know, so
Yeah.
we get into these habits because it's just ingrowing, like it's our personality to become our personality.
Yeah.
So
What a
get
huge lesson that was.
yeah. So okay. So what can we tell employees? How can we help employees here, or like because we've
Well,
been employees? Have you been an employee
absolutely.
before
Yeah.
you were a leader?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was an employee too. I reported, and I still report to you at this day, and I honor my word when I report to you.
You do?
And what can we tell people to build an environment where you don't need to send confirmations of a discussion that you had? And
Well, what would you tell the leaders? I would tell the leaders
okay, you're gonna start with that, yeah.
that it's okay. It's absolutely okay that if you receive documentation from one of your
Yeah,
employees, it is up to you to make the changes,
say thank you.
say thank you.
Yeah.
To hold them in judgment for sending that email to you, that documentation to you, is going to create a dynamic that you do not want to have with this employee. So creating trust is you first and foremost saying thank you.
And so the thing I'm going to add to leaders is this. You will find that at the end of the project or the delivery, what you said or did not say when they deliver something, that your mind has changed because the environment has changed. Stick to the original word that you said. So honor your word,
Always.
right?
Yeah.
Honor your word. Don't
Yeah.
add anything like celebrate the fact that the work or the thing has been done. Honor that word that you said.
Yeah.
Don't, and if you want to change your mind, there's nothing wrong with that, but then have another way to correspond with that employee. So honor your word and say thank you. Love that. Okay.
Absolutely.
What could we tell
What
employees?
can we tell employees?
So I think there's nothing wrong with writing cover. Like I've been in that situation, and my mistake, this is my personal mistake, is once I know, like I started writing it because my boss was offering me something if I did something, and every time I did something, he would offer it, and the time dragged on and on. He never accept or read or even sign what he had said, right?
Mm-hmm.
The agreement that we had come to.
Yeah.
It's time to leave.
Yeah.
If you're, that's what
That's
I would
what
say.
and that's exactly what I was going to say.
If
What advice would you give an employee?
leave. It's
Um,
don't stay. Don't if you have to cover your ass all the time.
yeah.
There's something that's like, and the person that you're responding to is always defending or always attacking, or there's something wrong there. And
Yeah.
without putting blame onto him, her, or whatever it is, I think it's time to for you to find another place. That would be my
Abs-
first advice.
and that's
Right?
and that's me too. Like
Yeah.
if you cannot come forward with your boss and you cannot openly talk, communicate, have that discussion, show up
Mhm.
forward in your meetings to have
Yeah.
that discussion, then yeah, it's definitely time to leave. But I would say before you ever walk away, bring show up into play,
I agree.
have a team
Oh, we're gonna
meeting,
talk about that.
make sure that you are able to say everything that you need to say, even if it's anonymous, because your interpretation, your perception of what's being said may be completely different than what your leaders think.
I agree.
So it's
Yeah.
it's it's really, you have to be clear in your communication. Phil Jones,
Phil Jones.
exactly what to say
Mhm.
is probably one of your
Amazing.
best audibles that you can actually listen to. I think it's actually the most listened to audible. Very small, exactly what to say. Sometimes we fill in with too many words,
Yeah.
and we need to get concise and precise about how we communicate with one another.
So I'm gonna say this as well for employees. Maybe when you start a relationship, you have to document because you don't like I don't even have to think. As soon as I think about something, Shelly already knows. She's already on it. We think a lot. Now we've been working
We
together for a
worked at
long
it,
time,
yeah.
right? So what happens over time is like you will get rid of the documentation because you understand what the other person wants to the detail that you are on it before they even ask. That's where you want to be. You want to be like, oh, what does Shelly want me to do? And like you go there right away, right? And so what happens, like it starts slow, and it may start with documenting and making sure you're okay, and then you can go on the edge and go, and then you start discovering what that person wants and what that person is yearning, and then over time you don't need a contract every time you do a task. Over
Yeah.
time you start to build a friendship and you start to build trust. Over time that builds up. But to have that relationship, the when you send something, this is what you're asking me to do. Out of curiosity, are we on the same page? And the person say, yes, I'm so excited, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you're gonna build trust, right?
That's
If you
that back and
Yeah,
forth,
if you
right?
become excited about, okay, yeah, yeah, I'm excited for this thing that you're gonna
Yeah.
do, you're gonna build trust,
Yeah.
right? And over
Instead
time,
of CMA.
instead of CMA, it's gonna
Yeah.
go away.
So if it's out
Yeah.
of curiosity, if it's out of building
Mhm.
that energy on the platform that you're about to build,
Yes.
the document you're about to put together, the webinar you're about to, whatever it is, then that's wonderful. If it's covering your ass, I think that you really need to just walk away.
Walk away.
Yeah,
If it always is a fight
yeah,
about like I'm covering my ass and the boss is always coming or the person's
yeah,
always coming and challenging you or discussing
yeah,
it or why did you do that or there's always an ickiness to it. If it doesn't kind of like build a relationship over time, I think it's like a question
It's
you have to ask yourself.
yeah,
Maybe I
it's
should be somewhere else.
absolutely. So the thing is what show up is going to alleviate and give you is, are you fighting with yourself?
Hmm.
Like, is it, are you always having tension with yourself? Because your boss may not be feeling any of that tension whatsoever that you perceive. So it's really, really important to let go of our perceptions and really get into our truth. Self-awareness is absolutely huge. But if you're waking up every morning and you're hating going to work,
Hmm.
it's definitely a problem. Are you fighting with yourself? Or are people in agreement? So the one thing with Show Up that I found out as we're into anonymous conversations is everybody's in agreement. The wording is a little bit different. People are using an interpretation of the wording, but we're actually all aligned and we're all going to the same place. We're just saying it in a slightly different way.
What happens, this is my observation last week of Show Up, right? Keep in mind that the reason we document things is that we think the person is not listening or taking notes on the project, right? If it's a complicated task, for example, we don't trust that they're received everything. So, like a conversation is about listening, and so I found that the most difficult thing as when I became we became a coach, right? Coach of leaders. The most difficult thing I find with all my conversations, it's the active listening. And so we described active listening as put the phone down. No, active listening happens when you are here, not thinking about something else.
Yeah.
And what happened would show up is interesting because it's anonymous. Now the leaders can put their own stories, their own thing. It's all anonymous. But then you get this in the Zoom call. I can see the leaders lean in, their eyes are open because they're there.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is practicing active listening. They've put what they had to say in the chat, in the comment, anonymously. They are not pretending to be someone. Nobody knows who said that. What happens with them inside of them, it allows them to actually get the idea out, right?
Yeah.
So they can actually be present and understand that you have to cover your ass because most of them you're not present. You're not listening to your
Yeah.
own voice, to what you've said to yourself or to other people, to them, what they've said to yourself and
Yeah.
other people. So, um,
Absolutely.
so the one thing I would say to all participants, leaders, employees, and everybody around, start with the here. Start with being here,
Yeah.
not somewhere else. Just be here, right,
Yeah.
in the moment. And if you can practice that, then less and less documentation will be required because you'll have trust built in your relationships. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to feel a sense of belonging. And that sense of belonging happens when you are trusted and you feel that you're trusted. And you can go on the edge and you know that that's going to be good. If you
Yeah.
go and then it's going to be surprised, right? Yeah, like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome. So don't allow things to get up in your head because you received some documentation. As soon as you take that personally, as soon as you
Mhm.
take that it's all about you, you are in a spiral. So do not do that. Allow yourself to be super truthful. Allow yourself to use platforms like Show Up to get the message out, to make sure that you and your entire staff is feeling really good about coming to work every day.
Now, I want to make sure we give acknowledgement to hello, Veronica.
Love Veronica.
So
The real
the
Veronica. She
the
is
real
everywhere.
Veronica. Yeah.
TikTok, Facebook, Insta. She is everywhere. I just got a badge from her because I'm a huge participant with her. And we absolutely love that she brings these real life scenarios. So we can have those discussions
Yes.
because this stuff is happening at work and it doesn't have to be
No.
negative.
I also want to give acknowledgement to our team,
Yeah.
Estelle, Angela, Leandra.
Leandra.
They
Yeah.
got our backs. Yeah.
Absolutely. Putting that together, making sure that we're able to give over this information and that we're able to align ourselves with what's going on in the world. You know, sometimes we sit in this beautiful box that we're in here
Mm.
and just think that everything around us is just as beautiful. And it's not always the way.
Not always the
So
way.
yeah, it's not always like that. So we want to be part of giving over some great information if at all possible, because we've been doing it for a really long time. Dovico is 31 years old,
31.
and so we haven't been We haven't been writing the book necessarily, but what we are is we're living it
Yes,
every day.
every day.
Yeah. And we just want to share. So I want to thank you so much. I'm Shelley Butler.
I'm Eve Doucette.
This is Mindset Monday. Love ya.
Tagline.
Get your workout in. And how are you showing up?